Hello and welcome to the second installment in my series on composers and their revisions. Last time I talked about Mahler and how his neurosis affected his revisions that he made in his first symphony, mostly at the beginning and at the end of the piece. And today I'm going to talk about Charles Ives, the American composer who stopped composing around about 1920 when he was, I think, in his 50s. And at that point, started only revising pieces that he had already written. Now, his revisions take a very interesting turn because what they do is he put on lots of extra dissonances, so he would come across like a very modernist composer. But if you look at the versions of pieces that he wrote in the 1890s and the first decade of the 20th century, you will see that most of his pieces were remarkably conservative for their time. As a matter of fact, his second symphony has virtually nothing in it that would have offended Schumann. However, at the end of the piece, he imposed a very dissonant chord right at the end of it, something that he added, I think, in 1924, almost 20 years after he composed the piece. And this particular dissonance has suddenly become emblematic of the piece. Now, funny story about this dissonance is he wrote it as a short note, but at the premiere performance given by Leonard Bernstein in 1951, Bernstein turned that last loud short chord into a long chord. And it is interesting to note that despite his love of adding dissonances to his pieces, Ives was offended beyond belief by this, and apparently it was a good thing he wasn't actually at the concert but was listening to it on the radio, because he was apparently storming around the room, and I think it would have been quite an interesting scene if he had showed up at the concert and actually had to confront Bernstein about his extension of that long note. If you listen to most recordings today, what do? They do what Bernstein did, because that's become the performance tradition. Poor Ives is turning in his grave.